All right, so random thoughts. I'm in my rig thinking, and one of the things that has been an interesting observation, both myself and people I've interacted with a lot of my life, is this really interesting, desperate need for perfection, mostly in the difficulty of being able to share with somebody, both significant or otherwise, when you've made poor choices, right? Because we can all aspire to be our best, but if we all get brutally honest and we all, in a non-self-loathing, self-condemning way, we can look at our imperfections and realize that we are inherently not wrong, but we're inherently survival based, and a lot of times emotionally surviving. And one of the ways we emotionally survive is a reflection of how we're seen, right? And I know that in my young life, how I was seen by others was so critically important, because how I was seen had a chance to overcome how I felt about myself. And because I used to actually say the statements, if you really knew me, you wouldn't love me, meant that I felt like inside of me was this hidden bag of poo. And if I could create an outside perception that you saw that was different than that bag of poo that I really knew I was, then I could be at least seen by others as better than I thought I was. And so I was in the mode of creating this alternate self on the outside that made me appear different than who I thought I was on the inside, because intrinsically I felt worthless, or worth little, or worth less. I don't ever think I felt worthless, meaning of no worth, but I definitely felt less worthy of adoration than my peers and other people that I thought had it together in their lives, were the examples of how it should be lived. And what was interesting is, as I grew, I realized that God doesn't make junk, and that I was inherently a good entity or human just because I existed. And the learning process allowed me to start wherever I was and be grateful for that, and move forward. And that took years and years of self-work to finally get to that point. But it really tunes me in to people who don't have that same struggle, that don't have that same self-loathing. They don't start off as far back as I did, but they still have a need to have their outward appearance be reflected back to them, that they're good or okay or worthy of acceptance, right? We are reflected back by the people we love sometimes in who we are. And so what my point is that this then lends itself to the inability in an intimate relationship, being family, friends, acquaintanceships, or even just the interactions among the public, to be able to own our imperfections and be able to quickly own our imperfections. So I believe if we're brutally honest and we get really real, we are invading other people's boundaries around us, meaning we're either disrespectful or short, or making decisions based on lacking trust or aggression or getting our needs met or whatever. We're a surviving critter that looks first at our own well-being. And here's the slippery part that I'm going to challenge you to acknowledge, that even if you're that personality type, and again, I'm a codependent, I'm a recovering alcoholic, been sober 29 years. I didn't get there because I didn't have issues. I had issues. That's why I drank. That's why codependency has been a lifelong search. And so part of that personality trait in codependency is to believe that we're self-sacrificing on behalf of other people, and those people then owe us their love and acceptance. And so even when we believe we are this crazy yes, but look at all I do for you type mentality, that is still for a selfish need, which is to be loved. And that's okay. I'm not saying that's survival. But when we exchange energy to get things like love back, then it sets a tone to that love, and it sets a tone to that giving that isn't free. It has a cost, and you owe me something. And that's this really interesting codependent life cycle where we as a group are love seekers and love needers, and what we end up being really good at is destroying love around us because of those levels of expectations and that sticky, gooey giving with baggage modality that really can destroy relationships. And I speak to that on a really first-hand basis. A lifelong struggle, still a struggle today for me to be able to separate what I know is truth and what my instinct is. So the point was to stick to the part of being able to quickly and easily own when we are inappropriate, and the gift that gives a relationship. I know that for myself, it is one of the things that I've actually become highly skilled at, is the quick admission of falling short of the mark with someone and saying, I made this choice and I'm really embarrassed at it. I did it because of this, but that certainly does not free me of responsibility. And I'm certainly not blaming it on that. And I just, I'm sorry. And I consistently try to do better and am doing better. I hope you can forgive me and extend me some grace if it shows up again, because it's something I struggle with. If your mate came to you with that one thing, or you have that one thing that you consistently do, and when it happens, you proactively go to your mate and use words like that, what ends up happening is on the other end of that is intimacy. Because we have this skewed perception, I think, especially in today's world, because again, we've strived so hard to be perfect and to be seen as perfect and without flaw, that what happens is we end up thinking that the way to intimacy is to have no conflict. And what's an interesting truth is the only true intimacy is on the other end of conflict. When conflict comes up, which is natural, people will step on you and you will step on them. Let's get over that part. Be really clean with that. I will step on you because it's the nature of human beings. So when I do, it's never because I want to step on you. It's inadvertent. And the gift you can give to me is to say, hey, you stepped on me. And then my gift back is to go, ooh, wow, I didn't realize that. Man, let me take a look. Yep, you're right. Dang, there it is again. I'm so sorry. I love you. I certainly didn't mean to step on you. And those type of quick interactions, that proactive, because that's the next step, proactively for you to observe your own behavior and go to the person you love and say, man, I did this. I'm sorry. I love you. I consistently try to do better and so appreciate your grace to be imperfect. That is such an intimate closing completion of that act, where without that it continues to be this little growing stack of resentment. And that little growing stack of resentment is very often the undoing of those relationships, because the stack just gets too big and you can't see over the top of it and it's not worth it anymore. And then it just becomes this giant thorn in everyone's side that shows up, and you either chew on that poo meat sandwich that you get served, or you say it again and you get met with defensiveness and they feel attacked and all that different stuff. the ultimate human interaction would be self-proactive, going to your mate, saying, wow, that showed up again, I'm so sorry, I love you. And for the mate to be able to come and confront with love and say, hey, this showed up again. And when you do that, in those ways that it's safe to be imperfect. And if we can create that safety both within ourselves and within others, when we bring that to them, we just have this beautiful exchange that has the ability to create intimacy. And intimacy is not conflict free. Intimacy is on the other side of conflict resolution. And if you never go through the fire with somebody, then the depth just isn't there. The depth of being able to be humble and look within and own your poo when it shows up is such a loving act that it's beautiful. And so that's my thoughts. And I have to remind myself of that, because it's so hard to own my poo, and it's so hard for other people to own their poo too. But it is something that is a skill. You can actually learn it. The key on the non-learned level is to have an inherent belief and knowledge that despite your imperfections, you're lovable, that's okay, that everybody else has the same stuff. We have this need to, again, have this exterior that seems perfect. My marriage is perfect, my job is perfect, my whatever is. I don't want to be seen for my imperfections. When we get a chance to really open up and say, perfect or imperfect, I'm a creation of God and I'm okay. And this is a process of evolution, of learning how to just get better. And here's my lot, here's my starting point, and I'm grateful for it because it gives me a chance to learn. It's such a different energy to launch from when our poo shows up. And so, my hope in this is that maybe for somebody that creates a little bit more intimacy or permission to be able to go to that person that you may have stepped on and say those words, because on the other end of that is freedom of guilt, shame, and the other things that we're never supposed to sit on. Remember, shame is a short-term feeling. It's supposed to be there to remind us short-term that we need to go and address our falling short. A lot of people live long-term with shame, and that can be arrested by just going to those people that we did that to and say, wow, I fell short, I love you, and I promise to do better. Those words are so powerful, both for you and for them, that I would just encourage you to look. So that's my thoughts.